Yay, and welcome everybody. Welcome to another edition of my YouTube channel, Emma Desi, and turning readers into writers with me. And today I'm interviewing another new debut author who's going to share her insights with us. And so S.Benjdar, who's also known as Devan, she graduated from Central Michigan University with a BA in broadcasting and theatre, giving her the background to write engaging stories. She writes deep, engaging, dark fantasy stories, as well as light, fun, fast-paced romance fantasy. And she published her first novel, Love Kills a Curse, in 2023. Time travel has always fascinated Devon, so she gets a kick out of placing her characters in their past or their future and watching to see what they do. So creating tales with just that extra twist. So welcome, Devon. It's so lovely to have you here with me today.
Thank you for having me, Emma.
Oh, no, it's a joy. It's a joy. Now, Devon, I'm sort of start asking everybody who comes into this, just tell us a little bit about your own journey to writing and to fiction and things, because everybody takes their own little path.
Right. I think with me, ever since I think back when I was 6 years old, I was telling stories. I have a sister, and because my father used to always say he had a dishwasher and a dryer, which was me and my sister. So, while one of us was washing, one of us was drying, I was always telling her my stories. I would dream up these stories. At the time, I was always placing myself in like TV shows that were popular, like, Bonanza or Star Trek, things like that. So I was always on the Starship Enterprise and things like that. And from there, I did start writing my stories when I was about 12, 13. I sat down and started writing out stories. And then I went off on going to college and wanting to go into broadcasting and theater.
Mhm.
And I didn't make it into broadcasting. That's a very hard business to get into, unfortunately. But I did do a lot with my theater background. And from there, I decided, all right, I can sit down and I can write. Now, I have ADHD, which makes it very difficult grammar wise for me to sit down and write a story. But I kept at it and kept at it. I started going to critique groups. I listened to what they tell me, how to make the story better. And I followed their advice. And so each time it was like I was growing and getting better, till where I got to the point where Love Kills a Curse came about when I was watching a TV show, an old one called The Virginian. It was a Western back in the early 60s. And I loved the show and I was really interested in it. And at the time, my 19-year-old daughter had now left the nest and had gone off to college in a different state. So I was kind of missing her. But anyway, what happened was I started thinking, what would happen if a 19-year-old girl ended up in her past back in 1889 and met the Virginia? And so I started having all of these ideas and thoughts going on in my head over it. And I thought, no, nobody would want to read this. This is my own, personal little fun thing I'm doing here. But then I was like, no, if I really like this story, why not write it down? And then other people might be able to enjoy it too. And so I did. I wrote it down. I worked on it for basically 6 years before I got it published. And once I got it published, I did a little bit of the book launch, and thought I'd get it out there. And for a little while, it was, up in the ranks a bit. And then, of course, it started to go down because I don't know how to market. So that was my next step is I had to learn how to market my book in order to get it out there so that many readers could read it. So that's kind of where I'm at in my journey now is I'm at the very beginning of getting my book out there and marketing it.
Yeah. Oh, I love listening to that. It's always interesting to hear everybody's own adventures and how they get there. And I think a lot of us do start as we're children, don't we? And I love that I had this beautiful vision of the two of you, you and your sister at the kitchen sink and telling each other stories and making each other laugh and things. I imagine that was lovely. A couple of things I'd love to pick up on is You've kind of given that great example of the what if, and that thinking about, that's what Stephen King talks about a lot, doesn't he? Just taking this what
Mm,
if this happened with this, and really trying to find two juxtaposing ideas. So a modern 19-year-old girl, and then set her in the setting of the Virginian, and there we go. It's that's those two what ifs. So I love that you've exemplified that really, really well. And the other thing that I picked up on there was, oh my goodness, I cannot tell you the number of writers who at some stage have said to themselves, nobody will want to read this. Why am I doing that? No one's going to want to read it. And that you're absolutely right. The truth is, if you like it, if you enjoy it, there's a good chance there are other readers out there who will enjoy that story too. And that sounds like maybe that was kind of a light bulb moment for you to go ahead and just go with it.
correct. It was. I was laying on the couch watching the Virginia, and and I'm like, these are just my silly little ramblings that I'm coming up with. And it was almost like a God moment for me. It was like, hey, God saying, hey, Devin, if you like this story, why don't you think anybody else would? It needed to be cleaned up, of course, and
Mhm.
it needed to be structural. And I think, again, with the ADHD, I have a tendency to kind of be all over the board. And so structure was really difficult. I can write the chapters and move the story along, but structural wise, it wasn't as solid as it could be. So I found a content of person who put the story on the right train track. And then I worked with her for a couple of months. We got that story where it needed to go. The structure became solid. It started to make more sense
Mhm.
as you read through the story. And voila, now I've got a book and I've got it out there.
So talk to me a little bit about that, about that you worked with a structure, somebody to do with structure. So was that an editor that you worked with, or a coach that you worked with, or a critique partner?
Yeah, she was a content editor. So she did it all. She did, your spelling. You said it was, a brown cow. Now you're telling us it's a black cow, keeping all of that together. Uh, she found where in my writing, I was trying to get out that, okay, this person's angry or mad, and I was doing it in a more harsher way, thinking that I had to be that way in order for the audience to understand what
Mhm.
was going on. And she helped me realize I don't need to do that. I can show that through body language. I can show that through, they don't have to be so harsh in their dialogue. They
Right.
can do it through their body language and how they act with each other and things like that. So that's what I need to work on, is getting that taken care of. And I have 3 points of views in this book. It's written by 3 points of views. We've got Denver, we've got Victoria is the girl that ended up back. And then we have Sarah, and it's kind of a love triangle is the romance part of it. And we've got, the spells, the love spells and all that kind of stuff going on in there. But yeah, it was just getting their all 3 points of views going in the same direction
Mm.
and moving the story along in a very understandable way.
Yeah. So that sounds like they did a little bit of everything. There was a bit of structural editing there. There was a bit of copy editing going on. And then presumably too, just that back and forth of brainstorming ideas, trying to understand your vision for the book to help you to realize that on the page. That sounds fantastic. Kind of like coaching, really. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I remember she was saying I was one of her first clients. So she was just starting out. And we would sit down and she basically was like, you don't need to call me. We're just going to go ahead and do this. But her and I ended up having a relationship where I was calling her and she was calling me. What do you mean by this? What are you trying to say in this chapter? Me going, well, this and this and this. And she's like, well, where did you hear that? It was off a television show. She's like, no, you need to be, within the time frame. It's in the 1800s. You need to stay there. Just because it happens on television shows doesn't mean it really happened in the 1800s. So
Well, we,
we
we
had a
all
lot of
need someone to pick up those little things for us, don't we? We do. So you've mentioned a couple of times that you've got ADHD, and I know that there are many writers out there who have that too. And whilst there are many wonderful elements of having it, and particularly the creativity sides of it, it also comes with its own challenges. There's no doubt about that. So one of the things, there's a number of things I hear often from newer writers. Sometimes it's about you know, time management and making space in their diary for it. But I also hear a lot of people talk about making a routine of it. You know, they can't seem to find themselves being able to focus on it for enough of a length of a time, or enough times during the week. That's something that seems to be a real a struggling point for a lot of people. Now, certainly with ADHD, I know that that type of focus can be challenging, but you've really been making it work for you. So I wonder if you'd just kind of share with us what are the tools, the strategies, the techniques, or the system or the process that you use to help you stay kind of focused on track and do the work that you do? Because you write a lot.
Yes, I certainly will let you know. Basically for me, I find that with my type of ADHD, I am the type of person that if I am focused on something and it's something that interests me, a house could burn down around me and I wouldn't even know it. Yeah, I'm there, I'm focused. I found that if I got up every morning and sat down at my computer and did my little routine, had my coffee and started writing, that basically set me up for the day where when I'm in the story, it's like I just want to sit and write all day. So I listen to music and write my story all day long. And then of course we get with the editing and that it's different. But I've always found that for me, daydreaming has played a big part in my writing. I I'm not sure because I think my daydreaming might be a little different than what other people think as daydreaming. For me, I become those characters. I put them in certain situations and then I work out what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And I get to know the character that way by doing that, by just daydreaming them in all different kinds of situations. And with Love Kills the Curse, I would, before I went to bed, okay, Sarah's got to do this and this. That's my next chapter. Let's daydream about what it's going to look like before I get there. So before I go to sleep, I become Sarah. I get the feel of who she is. I'm like, okay, what is she doing? What's her goal? What she wants to get at? And then we go from there.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always, daydreaming has been an escape for me. So
Yeah.
I just love disappearing and going somewhere else. And this is the kind of job where, yes, I can lay down and daydream a story, and that's a good thing.
Totally. Oh, yes, it is. So, just to go back a step, then it sounds like, for your particular version of ADHD, then having things the same every day so that you've got the same routine, and so you don't even have to think about it. It's just this is what I do in the morning. I get up, I do X, Y, and Z. I have my coffee, I do my things at my computer, and then I write. And does that mean you don't have to worry about it then? There's no decisions to be made. It's just it's almost like your body knows what to do, muscle memory.
Yes, it's more of just my body knows what to do. I've trained myself to do that. And now with marketing, it's kind of crowding some of that time. So
Mm-hmm.
I am sitting here trying to figure out, okay, if I want to do the writing, maybe I need to do that in the morning when my brain is functioning that way. And
Mm-hmm.
then work on the marketing part of it in the mid afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, go from there, depending if I want to do more writing or more marketing or what I want to do. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's also, keeping up with your chores, cleaning your house, your laundry, taking care of your husband, the dinners. And it's kind of like sometimes it's like, well, I'm sorry, it's 6 o'clock in the evening and there's no dinner. I've been busy. Sorry. Or, if I'm sorry, dear, make your own. But it's where, it's where I'm at. That's how I handle it. I think that if I didn't do that, then I would end up just being scattered and dealing with all different kinds of things and creating all different kinds of things for me to have to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm guessing from you, which I love, is there's you don't feel you're not apologetic for it. It's which I love. It's like, no, this is me. this is the way I am. If dinner's not ready, it's not ready. But I've been busy and I'm doing my thing, and yeah, I'm sorry dinner's not ready, but I'm not going to apologize for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I wonder if a lot of people do feel guilty for maybe getting absorbed in something else, losing track of time. But it's lovely to hear that you're not. And kind of, I think if they hear you saying, this is the way I am, and love me or loathe me, this is me, I'm not going to apologize for it. I hope it's going
Right.
to encourage others to take that confidence as well.
And I also think that the older I've gotten, the easier that has become. There is something to say about getting older. You get to that point in your life where, okay, this is what I want to do. Here are my goals. My husband's retired. I'm retired. I can go ahead and work on this. And he understands that writing is a passion for me. And I'm very lucky. I have a husband that's that way. He's
Mhm.
constantly, well, that's what you want to do. Fine, you do that. I'll take care of myself. So I am very, very lucky I have him in my life. But yeah, I think it comes with age too. I know when I was younger and I had my daughter and she was a kid, and it was, make sure you get these things done, because if you didn't, then
Mhm.
who's, the baby's not
Gosh.
eating tonight. That's not good.
Yeah. Yay. Oh, no, that's wonderful. I love hearing that confidence that you've got with it, that's your process and the way it is. And interesting too to hear about your process. It's not just at the beginning of the day, but actually it's part of your evening routine as well. So when you go to bed and you start delving into what's going to be happening in that next chapter or scene. Because one of the things I was keen to talk to you about, you've got really strong characters. I've read Love Kills the Curse, and very, very distinctive voices with those characters. So it sounds like the daydreaming bit in the evening, that is, I don't know if it's how you come up with your characters, but certainly sounds like it's how you evolve your characters.
Yes. I remember when I was writing Love Kills a Curse, I'm in South Dakota now, and I was making a trip to North Dakota in the United States. And on the way, I thought, okay, I'm going to take my character with me. So I took the character with me, and it's kind of like I have conversations and, what kind of music does that character like? What kind of music, and things like that. Or if I was at the gym, I would hear Denver's voice saying, oh, come on, you can pick that up. It's easy enough, And then I would be like Victoria thinking, no, no, this is hard work, you know, those kind of things. So just being really close with my characters.
Mhm.
Sometimes I don't really tell too many people those kinds of things, because then I come across as being crazy. But yeah, I might be reading something, especially now with Chaotic Web. That's the newest project I'm working on now. With my characters will come out. I'll be reading something and they may say, "Well, that's not how I'd say it," and I'm like, Go." Get behind me. The writer is now reading this, not my characters. So yeah, they just almost become like they're alive to me. And I
Mhm.
think that's why you feel they're well developed, because they are alive. They're credible.
Yeah.
You can relate to them, because I spent a lot of time with them in order to create them and make them real to the reader.
Mhm. And so do you, some people believe they love doing this sort of character interviews, sitting down with a piece of paper and writing an interview out. Is that something that you've done and found useful, or is it all up here?
I actually had started a group where there was only three of us in it, but that was kind of what we were doing. It wasn't a critique group to say, it was more of just soundboarding and working with each other. And we decided to do that, to do a character interview sheet. Well, the two of them did a beautiful job. Mine didn't work. I found that it just didn't work for me. To have them sit there and answer these questions, it didn't come off very well.
Mhm.
I need to feel them in my heart. I need to be there, and they need to be here in my head. And I need to be seeing them in the daydreams of what they're doing and how they interact with others. That is how I get close to them. Doing an interview, not for me, but I do know it works for many writers. I mean, the two that I was working with, they both really got a good handle on their characters by doing that.
Yeah.
Whereas I was like, nah.
And do you think that, because it is interesting how our brains do work so differently and what resonates with each of us. And I'm wondering then that idea of seeing them in your mind, seeing them move, how they respond, their expressions, that kind of thing. I wonder if that has come about or been enhanced with the theatre training that you did, which can be very physical and kind of actually being in the space and being the characters.
Yes, it does. I've also am a person who, if I have a scene, I will actually draw a map on a piece of paper. I'll draw the room. I'll
Hmm.
put all where everything is, where the chairs are, the beds, the stove, the fireplaces, and then I will put the characters in there. And then I will, as I'm thinking and daydreaming about where they're going to go, that's part of the daydream. I can see it. I
Oh.
can see the room. I know it's in the room. So when I draw it out, when I'm writing, it's very easy then to say, well, so and so was, standing by the bed, moved over to and it's like, I know where they are in the room. I can describe it better. And it
Mm.
really helps me. And the theater part of it is, I did, for me, as being in theater, I did more of the technical end of theater. Therefore, I did like the lights, the sound, I built sets, all of those type of things. I wasn't really in the plays. I was behind the scenes, but it taught me a lot about, okay, if where are the people in the room? What's it going to look like? How to put it together?
Mhm.
I also learned that when you got some characters off stage, when they come on stage, what are they thinking? So it
Mhm.
basically, when you're writing your story and you got a character coming into the room, you need to know what they're thinking before
Mhm.
they get into what's their mood before they get into that room. And how is that mood going to interrupt what's happening already? Do I have two other characters in the room? Are they having a conversation? Now, this third person is interrupting. How does everybody react to that? So using the daydreaming and seeing it and thinking it through a couple of different ways, and also drawing it out, on a map, I find it much easier to place them and get a handle on what's happening.
Yeah. That's such a great tip. Such a great tip. The one about drawing out the space, drawing out the where the scene is taking place. And I would wonder that I would I'd be willing to bet that not a lot of people do that. Um, but I certainly have had to do it because I've got myself confused and then I keep seeing the space in a different way. And so I've had to just say, sit myself down and draw it out so that I solidify it in my head and I know where everything is. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful idea. And if people aren't doing that, anyone listening, I think that's something really worth trying because then you're right, you're absolutely right, Devon. You can stage direct it basically, can't you? And you
Yep.
see where everybody's going to go, how they're going to be with each other. And then it stops us having the talking heads that we mentioned in craft talk. We've got these three characters and they're talking, but we don't know where they are. We don't know where the space is. We don't know where they are in the space. And so by drawing all of that out, then we clarify that for ourselves. And the more clear and specific we can be and have it in our head, the clearer and more specific we can be on the page. So,
That was part of my process. I did start out like that. I had talking heads. That's
mhm,
where I
we
started.
all do.
And then with the process of with the critique group, and they're like, well, what's happening? And I remember one of the critique groups, the guy was like, okay, tell me what's going on. So I told him, and he's like, Devin, that's still in your head. It's not on the page. And I'm like, it isn't? And he's like, no, what you wrote here is a skeleton. Now you need to flesh it out.
Mhm.
And that's when I started to learn, oh yeah, adding all of those little, what do I see in the room? What smells are there? What do they feel? What are they touching? All of that plays into writing a good book and a
Mhm.
good story.
Yeah. Oh, well done, your critique partner. That's really observant and smart of them. It's certainly something that I sort of ask a lot when I'm coaching people. I said, well, what's going on here? What's your character thinking here? And then they'll tell me. And then it's like, okay, just pop that. What you just said to me, put it on the page. And
Yeah, it works better.
it's so simple, but so effective, and really does just enrich a scene, doesn't it? It really fills it out.
It
And
does, yeah.
yeah.
And the thing is I do understand because I started there. I am very much a dialogue person. I hear the dialogue. I like to just go dialogue, dialogue, dialogue. But you got to stop and you got to start retraining yourself to look at what's in the room. Where are they? Where is this taking place? And then I also had another person inform me that maybe the scene isn't working because it's not in the right place. Maybe the scene needs to take place outside rather than inside or something along them lines. And I was like, I never thought of that. So that's
That's
just
a great
another
question.
idea that if something's not working, maybe move them to a different room or move them outside or somewhere else and give
Mhm.
it a shot that way.
Yeah, what an intuitive question. That's great. I love that question. Yay. Wow, that's been so, I've loved that conversation. That's been eye-opening, and I think really practical for anybody who's listening and maybe struggling with their book a little bit too. So you did all this work. You're always very gracious when you take on feedback and really take it in. And I always get that sense from you that you're not precious about your work. You take it seriously, but you are very open to taking that feedback in and thinking about it, implementing it if you agree with it. And so you've gotten to that stage where you were ready to publish and it was ready to go. And so I'm always curious, what have you found to be one of the more surprising or unexpected parts of the publishing process? Not so much the writing, but the actual publishing process.
Right. Yeah. With publishing, it wasn't as hard as I thought to publish it, actually. Getting everything in line and putting the book online and getting it, out there wasn't as hard as I thought.
That's good.
The surprises came after it
Uh-huh.
got out there because that's when I went, oh, wait, I'm not picking up readers. And then it's like, okay, it's because I'm not advertising it.
Mhm.
I need to be the voice for this book and get it out there. And that's where I find as a writer, I'm not very strong. It's hard for me to, oh, come and buy my book. It's great. Da, 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 da. I'm not that kind of a person. So it's hard to do that. But I'm slowly coming out of my shell and I'm learning how to get myself out there by doing interviews such as with you, being part of collaborations with other people, and just getting myself out there. So that's where the surprise was. The publishing, I really didn't have a problem. It's more along the lines of just a structured form. Okay, here's the name of the title. Here's who's written by. This is how many pages. This is what I want them to look like.
Mhm.
You know, those kind of things weren't too difficult. It's getting out there and doing the marketing itself.
Yay. So that I love to hear you say that, because it does, a lot of people who haven't yet published, and they do, and we're talking about independent self-publishing here, they haven't done it, and there is a fear around it being this very, very complicated thing. But you're right, the actual publishing bit, that's a nice easy bit. Now, when you said you realized, oh, I'm not advertising my book, I think people might have kind of heard that as being, oh, I'm not paying for Amazon ads or Facebook ads. Is that what you mean?
Not exactly. No. I do know through I've taken a marketing class and I know that there are ways of putting your book out there through email. If you have a lot of people on your email or yeah, even I had like 40 some people on my email. So I just sent an email to every single one of them saying my book's coming out, will you buy, blah, blah, blah. And so I did get that. Now by doing a collaboration with other people. I wasn't the one that put the collaboration together. A friend of mine did, and she so graciously invited me to join them. And so my book got there. I ended up picking up 100 and some extra subscribers now. And I feel that now that I got these subscribers, I need to treat them with respect. I need to take care of them. That's my job to keep them there, and also, if they like what they see in me, maybe they will start to, hey, this is a good book. The author's great, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm getting further out there. Also, there's just, you can put it on, any of your platforms. If you're in social media, you can say, I'm launching my book on TikTok or X or Facebook or wherever you are, you can do it that way. I haven't gotten into doing any kind of advertising money-wise.
Mm,
I know that some of my friends have, and they've gotten good feedback from it and they've gotten sales, but
mhm.
it's something that I don't think I would depend on. I
Yeah.
think if I was going to do an advertising with money, I might do one once a year or something like that, just to kind of keep the book going out there through that kind of advertising.
Mhm.
But other than that, I don't think I would do that.
But it was great that you're letting people understand that when we talk about advertising, it's not necessarily paid advertising. And I'm sure you've discovered as well, it's not about saying, buy my book, buy my book. It's the best book in the world. I'm amazing. It's just telling people about your book, what the story is, who might like it. And here, if you want to buy it, this is where it is. And it's not about being salesy and sleazy or anything like that. It's just giving people an opportunity to buy a book that they might enjoy. That's it.
Right.
Yeah, so nice, so nice. So I'm glad it was not as scary as you thought it was going to be. So we've talked a lot around the book of Love Kills a Curse. Please do tell us a little something about it and who might enjoy this book.
Okay. It is a fantasy romance. So it does have an element of time travel in it because the absolute main character is Victoria. She's from 2016. She heads back to 1889. She meets Denver back there. He's a ranch hand. He's the foreman. And Sarah, who is a daughter of a witch.
Mhm.
Um, and so we got those fantasy elements in there with the love spells and a little, magical stuff happening. And with the house, I really debate it because the house is almost a character itself in that story because it's where everything happens. It's how she does get back in time is by going through the house. So I think people that really enjoy a fast read, it's fun, it goes quick. There's a lot to be that you encounter in that story. I don't think it's lacking anywhere. There's always something going on. I'm one of those kind of writers. I'm like, let's just keep going, action, action, action. So it's a very, upbeat, easy to read,
Good
fun
pace.
story. And I think anybody that likes that fantasy romance with some of the, magical things in it, the
Yeah.
idea that the character's in her past and she falls into a love triangle. And how does she deal with it? She's got to break the curse or she's going to die. So that's the big thing looming over her head.
Nice. We've got that sense of urgency as well, which is fabulous. So, if are there any kind of books that we might recognize if somebody has read something that's similar to yours and they might enjoy?
Yes, there is Diana Knightley. She writes a lot of time travel type stories, and she has them based in Scotland. So she's the person who my book is quite a lot like her books with the time travel. I also have Katie Pryor. She wrote the Dream Master, and her book is more on the paranormal, but it still has a lot of that fantasy kind of feel to it. And so that's just another book.
So, if
And
readers have read either of those authors, they're probably going to enjoy your book as
yeah,
well.
that's correct. Yeah, they would enjoy.
Fab.
Yeah, if they like those authors, then yeah. And also, I've had people tell me that I write. And now I'm not so much sure with Love Kills a Curse, but because it's more fun and easy to read. But people have said I write like I sound a lot like Ray Bradbury.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, I mean, because of with the dark fantasy that I'm working now, just that getting in there and just, you know, so, but still, I think Love Kills a Curse is just fun. I enjoyed reading it myself. I'm like, I read it through one time and I'm like, wow, I read that pretty quick. I know the story, but still, it reads quick. It's fun.
Yeah, fabulous. So, if anyone is interested in getting finding out more about you, Devon, where's the best place for them to go?
They would go to S.Benjdar.com and it's S like Sam, B like boy, ENJ like jar, DAR.com. That is my website, and you would be able to learn more about me. There's an opportunity there to pick up the book and then see what I'm working on.
Fabulous. Well, that's been wonderful. I found this really, really enlightening today, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to me about your writing and about Love Kills a Curse as well. So thank you so much, Devan.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.